There's been an awful lot of misinformation and disinformation coming from South African politicians, from Western media, US and Europe, and also from South Africa's own media and politicians who spread disinformation regarding the US refugee program that President Trump offered on the 7th of February 2025 with an executive order. Many lies and distortions about the program have been spoken out there, so let's take a moment and talk about what's really been happening. First off, all these stories about asylum, including recent stories in News 24 about asylum, have nothing to do with asylum. This is not an asylum program. Under U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act of 1980, the only people who can apply for asylum legally are those who've entered the United States legally and have a legitimate purpose for being here, and then have legitimate fear that something will happen to them on return to their home country. They can apply for asylum. The number of asylum seekers that's actually approved is very low. Those who go through the court, because it is an antagonistic process in which you must prove that you are in jeopardy, and therefore the number of cases approved is 3 to 5% max. So very few people qualify for asylum. Nobody in South Africa currently fits that definition. There are South Africans who have applied for asylum in the States and have not gotten it. Many of them have been here, have tried and failed, and a few actually have cases ongoing. But by and large, people don't get asylum from South Africa. Now, that might change under the current situation, given what South Africa's team that came to the U.S. didn't do last week, and that's disprove the challenges facing ethnic minorities.
Just put this on, it's right behind you.
You are cutting the throat of one person. Was not called for the killing of white people, at least for now.
But the refugee program that President Trump made available, there's been nothing but lies about it. First off, it was never about farmers. And every news article in South Africa that claims that these people who came over in the first cohort, the first proof of concept group of 59, not 49, but 59 South Africans, including a colored couple who came over, they were never required to be farmers. This isn't about farmers. This isn't about crime. We heard Cyril Ramaphosa and Johan Rupert and the head of COSATU try to convince Donald Trump in the White House Oval Office that South Africa has a crime problem. Well, duh, we all know South Africa has a crime problem. It has nothing to do with crime. That's one element of this. This is not about farmers. It's not about crime. It's about racial discrimination. And nobody did anything to change the fact that there are over 100 plus laws that racially discriminate against South African minorities. Now, a few things specifically about the program as it came out. As I said, it's not for farmers. And another thing I said from the very early stages of this, from the 7th of February, is that I would hope that would include ethnic minorities, because the laws, while people claim that under broad-based Black economic empowerment, coloreds and Indians are considered Black or African, in practice, they're not. They're discriminated against wildly by those who are responsible for BEE implementation. So they're all victims of racial discrimination. And sure enough, when the first cohort of refugees, those with refugee status, arrived in the United States on the 12th of May, 2025, almost simultaneously, the American Embassy in South Africa posted the program. It officially opened for anyone who would like to apply, who is a South African citizen, who is an Afrikaner ethnicity, or an ethnic minority, who can prove they've been a victim of discrimination or have a reasonable fear of discrimination. It's as simple as that. No farmers. It doesn't matter if you're 92 or you're 2 years old. Refugee status is granted to people whose lives are in peril. If they don't get out, they could die as a consequence of being abandoned. We don't let people rock up to the port and say, okay, we'll take you because you're a nuclear engineer. We'll take you because you're a particle physicist. No. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation, your age, your physical ailments, your blindness, your sightedness. It does not matter. None of these things are applicable for refugee status to come to the United States under this program. And that's the bottom line. It's important to deal in facts when dealing with issues like this. Again, it's not about crime. That may be an element that caused people to fear for their lives. And yes, all South Africans suffer from violent crime except the extremely wealthy. But the reality is that it's about racial discrimination. And no one refuted that to any degree at that meeting in the White House. Therefore, it's open to anyone who is of Afrikaner ethnicity or is an ethnic minority and a South African citizen who has a legitimate fear or has been a victim. It's as simple as that, folks. Farmers don't matter. Stop listening to the nonsense. Start listening to the facts. The information is freely available at the U.S. Embassy, zausembassy.gov, zausembassy.gov. It explains the program. You go, put in a statement of interest, and apply. Now, I'm heartbroken that anybody in South Africa would want to leave such a wonderful country, but I don't sit in the shoes of those who've suffered oppression. and I can't speak for them. I know all too well many who've suffered racial oppression in South Africa, and it's unfortunate and it's immoral. But here's your opportunity, should you want to take advantage of this program, to do so. I don't encourage anyone to leave South Africa, and I don't discourage anyone. We simply deal in facts and the truth here at the Truth Report. And I hope that you find this information useful should you decide to make a decision whether to participate in the refugee program to come to the U.S. or you choose not to. Here in the United States, in my local community, I'm surrounded by Afghans and Congolese and Arabs, none of whom ever appeared once in my supermarket before 10 years ago. But we've been inundated with refugees in this area, flooded with refugees. And South African refugees are welcome. You're no different than anyone else. You've suffered persecution, and you've been granted in-country refugee status should you apply, express interest, and get approved for the program. So there you go, folks. The nonsense about asylum, stories in South Africa trying to rubbish the refugee program by saying that 2 Americans have been granted asylum in South Africa. For what? No one has a basis to flee America. No one's being racially or religiously persecuted in this country. It's utter nonsense. But for the past 5 years, apparently 2 Americans have received asylum in South Africa. Well, good for them. Good luck there. Hope you like life behind bars and barbed wire. Enjoy your time there. It is a lovely country, but it is a country that's very much in turmoil. All right, folks, there's your information. Do what you like with it, but you've gotten the facts now. It's not about farmers. It's not about white people. The executive order didn't say farmer once. The executive order never once said white. It said Afrikaners suffering from unjust racial discrimination in education, in commerce, and in agriculture. That's what the order said, and that's what happened with the program. Do not listen to the lying media in the U.S. and in South Africa that are distorting reality. All you have to do is go to zaUSembassy.gov and check for yourself. For those of you staying behind, Afrikaners will always be in South Africa. It's in their blood. It's who they are. They're part of the soil. And I wish you all luck. Godspeed.